Now let's discuss time in a Klein bottle. A Klein bottle folds through itself in a way that eliminates any true inside or outside. And when applied to temporal flow, this topology allows every movement to remain continuous while floating back across its own trajectory. Rather than a single line, time moves along a looping surface, reconnecting in patterns that repeat without forming rigid boundaries. The rotation of this structure induces motion that resembles a toroidal current. Energy and information circulate, producing layers of oscillations within the fabric of space-time. These oscillations form repeating bands similar to waveforms, but arranged in a higher dimensional curvature. As the Klein surface twists through 4D space, the flow of time advances while spiraling back across its own track, creating intervals that echo previous states in altered form. These intervals act like octave jumps in music, similar themes expressed in higher or lower registers, yet operating across dimensions rather than through sound. Loops inside this geometry interlock through resonance. When two oscillatory pathways align on the Klein surface, they intersect at points of phase coherence, concentrating their energy and information. These intersections create conditions where sequences appear to recur with highlighted significance. From the perspective of an observer embedded in 3 dimensions, these alignments manifest as synchronicities, events that seem related beyond conventional causality. Rather than chance, these experiences may arise from harmonic crossings inside of a higher dimensional orientation. Understanding these interactions mathematically involves representing oscillations as standing waves constrained by the Klein topology. Fourier-like decompositions extend into non-orientable surfaces and allow each loop to be analyzed as a frequency component, contributing to an overarching temporal field. When frequencies align in simple ratios, the interference pattern intensifies, amplifying certain timelines and compressing others. This effect could explain why certain historical epochs accelerate innovation or collective shifts, as if riding a constructive harmonic peak in spacetime flow, or why other eons feel wholly disharmonious, with wars and earthquakes and chaos happening as decoherence in the timeline happens. We are at a harmonic trough in space-time flow. The Klein bottle's continuous surface also supports octave-like scaling in temporal perception. A sequence of events can recur at progressively larger scales, days echoes years, decades and centuries, because the topology carries similar self-patterns along its curvature. Each circulation alters the phase relationships, introducing variation without abandoning the structure. These nested recurrences generate what feels like cycles of destiny or historical rhythm, reflecting the geometry of the surface itself. An easier way to visualize all of this might be to think of pouring water into a vase. The flow of water flows around the vase, and then if you could keep that water flowing, and then nest that vase inside of another vase and have water flowing around that, and then keep that out. That's a nested structure of the flow of time, with multiple currents of time all running simultaneously within the structure of the 4D Klein bottle. Now, positioning consciousness within this structure brings an additional dimension of interpretation. Awareness might navigate along multiple strands of oscillation, accessing intersections where resonance heightens the informational density of experience. Memory, intuition, and foresight could operate as phase-related positions on the same surface, linked by harmonic intervals rather than linear progression, which means that progressive impressions or déjà vu may signal contact points where separate trajectories converge inside the Klein surface. Rather than flowing endlessly forward, time under this model folds and spirals in self-referential arcs, producing coherence across vast scales. Every oscillation participates in a pattern of patterns, ongoing harmonic architecture where past and future interlace through geometric necessity. Observing synchronicities through this lens means perceiving them as markers of resonance, evidence that the loops of higher dimensional surface have momentarily aligned, revealing the harmonic texture of time. Time forms a structure that moves in curves and oscillations. folding and circulating without boundaries. A climb bottle offers a geometric model for this behavior, creating a continuous surface where every path reconnects while extending forward. Oscillations run along this curvature, generating sequences that spiral through layered loops. Each cycle shifts slightly, creating patterns that recur like octaves rising through different registers, carrying variation while preserving continuity. These loops intersect through resonance, forming points where oscillations align and amplify. At those intersections, information concentrates and experience intensifies, producing events that feel charged with meaning. Synchronicity reflects those alignments where cycles converge in a higher dimensional surface and expresses coherence across scales. History, biology, and personal experience trace these harmonics crossings, moving through intervals that organize complexity without imposing rigidity. Scientific observation supports this rhythmic structure. Sources are in the bio. Gravitational waves reveal oscillations in spacetime, quantum theory identifies systems that sustain periodic states, and cosmology explores models of expansion and contraction as recurring phases. Fourier analysis uncovers cyclical components hidden in climate records, economic trends, and neural activity. Brainwave entrainment demonstrates how consciousness synchronizes with external rhythms, showing that time perception itself follows harmonic principles grounded in oscillation and ratio. Consciousness navigates these dynamics by engaging with the intersections where patterns converge. Memory, anticipation, and intuition occupy positions linked by phase relationships rather than fixed by sequence alone. At those crossings, information density rises, creating conditions for insight, familiarity, or the sensation of repeating events. Awareness participates in this motion, shaping experience while remaining shaped by the underlying geometry of the universe, forming a reciprocal relationship between mind and temporal structure. Time emerges as a continuous harmonic field, layering cycles and resonances into an architecture without edges. Every oscillation contributes to a larger composition, carrying meaning through alignment and variation. These patterns extend across scale, connecting physical processes with perception and history through shared ratios. Understanding time through its harmonic order replaces linearity with a geometry that organizes recurrence, turning the flow of existence into a structure of interwoven oscillations sustained by resonance. So that wraps it up for today. As always, sources are in the channel bio. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell like the winners that you are, and I will see you next time. Bye!